So, you want to be a dungeon master.
So you want to be a dungeon master.
So you want to be a dungeon. So you want to be a dungeon master. So, you want to be a dungeon master.
That's great. We're here to help. I'm Taylor.
And I'm Justin. This week, we're headed over to that special corner of the internet where everything is normal and good. Reddit. What? Is that wrong? I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean...
Anyway.
Have you been on Reddit?
We're gonna be reviewing some crazy stories posted on r/D&D horror stories. It's a subreddit. Goodness gracious. Things are going to get insane in these stories. Now,
getting into this.
Hopefully,
the spooks.
If you're listening to this, your experience with D&D is not this insane. We genuinely believe that these are the exceptions and not the rules to the D&D and tabletop communities that we've been a part of, at least. And if these sound like something you're going through, send us an email. Let's talk about it, because there are red flags that there are so many. It's crazy. So if you want to submit to us directly your D&D horror story, or like, even, it doesn't need to be a horror story, but even like a rules situation that left you curious, reach out to us via our email, soyouwannabeadm@gmail.com, or join the Discord server. The links are all available in the episode description. So without further ado, let's get into it. But first, I'm going to be my first. Let's discuss this phrase. This is a phrase that I hear all the time. I just want to get your take on it. No D&D is better than bad D&D.
I would kind of agree with that.
Yeah.
Just because I've been at not so great tables before, and it's more like I play D&D to relax and unwind, and if I feel like I'm always having to be either on edge for player dynamic reasons, or if the DM is just making it not fun, it drains me more than it refills the social battery.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the thing.
I'd rather just sit at home and play something.
I totally
by myself if it comes down to it.
I totally agree. Could not agree more. I think that it's like it like, you don't want this to be true, but it is true. It's just like, listen, I would rather not play D&D than play D&D in a game that's not fun. What is the point of that? Not to mention, like, the things that we're covering today, these are, like, crazy. Some of them are, like, genuinely, like, so problematic. And then some of them are just bad DMs, just having power trips. Like, they run the gamut. Some of them are, like, genuinely problematic. Like, not even, like, oh, that's just, like, a bad DM decision. But, like, oh, you're a bad person. So, like, there's so much. You'll see the gatekeeping in some, like, the old school mentality of, like, back in the day, D&D was for the nerds, for the outcasts, and so we were very protective of our blah 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 blah. Stand that.
I do want to put an important qualifier here on the bad D&D bit. Bad D&D is not, oh, I don't know how to play, we're going to kind of make up the rules as we go. That's not bad D&D. That's, maybe not the most accurate, or the way that the game was intended to be played, but as long as everybody is having fun, that's good D&D. It doesn't matter how rulesy you get with it.
Yeah.
Bad D&D is problematic stuff happening at the table, something that is making the other players either uncomfortable, or a decision that is making people mad. That's bad D&D.
Yeah, just not having fun. Because if you're having fun, if the whole table is having fun at no one's expense, then by all means, let her rip.
That's good D&D. That's
Can you think of any like D&D small red flags that are like, that you could catch early on for like either new players, new DMs, or something like that? Like tiny ones. Like, here's an example of one that I thought of when I was writing this question is like, if you're like a new player to a campaign, maybe you're not. Like, you as the player are not new to the system, but like just new to this table. And during character creation, I think it could be a red flag. It depends on the context, but it could be a red flag if the DM has a ton of restrictions during character creation.
Yeah.
Now, there are examples when that's not that big of a deal,
like that.
but sometimes that could be a red flag.
Right. So in the way that I do it with newer players is not, oh, you have to do X, Y, Z. It's, oh, you're trying to do this. That seems a little complex. Why don't we try something a little bit different?
Yeah.
That's a totally different conversation than, no, you can't be that race. No, you can't be that subclass. No, you can't do this. Or you have to do it like this. You have to play this character.
Right.
You have to play this alignment or whatever. Not that we really make too big of a deal about alignment in general, but that whole situation of kind of if the DM takes over too much of the creation process, it's no longer you know that when things are not going their way later on down the line, they're going to change stuff.
Yeah.
In the future, I can almost guarantee you that they will change how something works because they don't like how it's playing out for them.
Yeah, 100%. That's definitely a red flag, is people changing the rules on the spot to fit the situation, and there's no consistency there. But then another thing, back to character creation, and this time on the player side, I think a small, tiny red flag would be like, maybe not that tiny even, but like there are times when the DM has put in all this work into the setting, and is like, the player comes in and is like, well, I really want to play I really want to play a centaur. And the DM's like, oh, okay. So every other species is cool, but in this world, for these, weird background reasons, there are no centaurs. Or like they're only in the Feywild. In this story, it doesn't take place in the Feywild or something. Like sometimes there is like a give and take of like, here's the setting, you should build a character for that setting. And sometimes you have a player who comes in and is like, no, I'm going to play this crazy idea. I want firearms. I want this crazy stuff and da-da-da. And it's like, yeah, okay, well, that you're just not going to fit into the campaign though. Like, so that's kind of crazy. So there's like a give and take there. And if the player is like right off the bat already being like, no, I'm playing this character. I'm doing this thing. And it's just like, okay, well, there's going to be no compromise here. And that's just a window into future problems. Oh boy.
Yeah. I think the takeaway from that is one of the bigger red flags is the player or DM forcing their decisions on the whole table, whether the table likes it or not.
Yeah, exactly. And
that kind of mentality will only create more player conflict later on down the line.
And branching right off of that, a massive red flag that relates to all of the things we've already talked about is not having a session 0 or something similar. Like you need to have some
definitely
kind
discussion.
Of conversation. It doesn't need to be like a full session 0 where it's like, hey, we're going to do 2 hours and just talk about all the things. Like I get it. Some people, the scheduling, like whatever it may be, or like you're just bringing one new player into the sessions for a month. Like, okay, I understand maybe not wanting an entire session, but having something. Yeah. Whether it's a Google Doc that has the safety and consent checklist, so you kind of just, okay, now I better know what not to talk about. Okay, here's the session 0 where we're going to talk about character creation and all the stuff all at once. Like there's ways to do things that just are going to make for a better time down the line. I think if I was joining a campaign that had any length to it and they weren't doing a session 0, unless it was like tight ass friends, you know what I mean? Like if you were Taylor were running a game with our other Sword Coast Coup friends, that's totally different. But that's a privileged place where we're all tight. We've played together for 4+ years. It's a little different. But even then, a session 0 wouldn't be bad. It's just maybe not as necessary as like, oh, here's these 3 people I've never played with before or have never played with each other. But yeah. So I don't know. I mean, there's a ton. Some of those are going to depend person to person.
Very
it's the same
nuanced.
Thing. Yeah. Going back to like, what does bad D&D mean? It could look different for different people too. Some people are all about the power gaming. Some people genuinely don't like it. Others are kind of cool with whatever, like take it or leave it. Some people are all about using the virtual tabletops and getting really into the graphics and all the different macros that you can do and all this crazy stuff. And other people are like, that's a video game. I don't want to play Baldur's Gate with you. I want to play D&D. So there's like, everybody has different preferences. Some people don't like D&D, but they love Pathfinder or vice versa. So take it,
Yeah.
It's up to you.
Yeah.
What do you think is fun D&D? What do you think is bad D&D? Let us know. Send us an email.
Come on. Send us an email. Come on.
Come on.
Hey gang, we wanted to talk to you about something pretty important real quick. See, we have some really cool ideas for the future, but we need your help. You can do that by supporting us through our Patreon. At the lowest tier, you get early access to podcast episodes, access to episodes of Action Surge, our post-session table talk show, and entry into a private channel on our Discord server. At the next tier, you can get access to Bonus Action, our bonus content podcast where we talk about a huge variety of D&D and TTRPG related things, like multi-class mystery mashup, where we get 2 random classes and have to build a character, or Monster Matchmaker, where we go over our favorite monsters at each CR level, or recaps of our home campaign, plus so much more. Joining the Patreon helps us continue to grow and put out content that gets better and better as we learn, improve, and try new things. So, check out the link in the description to join the gang today.
Okay. Are you ready to get into these? Bro, these are crazy.
Yeah, let's do it. I mean, we've talked about kind of where the line is here of what we're looking at. So let's do it.
Let's do it. Our first
Should
story.
I get some or?
Our first story is titled DM Trolled Us All with His Mimics.
Oh gosh.
Here we go.
Okay.
I'm part
All
of
right.
Here we go. I'm part of several campaigns, and last night something wild happened in one of them. Quick backstory. A few sessions ago, our DM had us fight this super powerful dragon. As a reward for defeating it, we found some level 9 spell scrolls. There were things like True Resurrection, Power Word Kill, and Time Stop. Naturally, all of us players decided to save them for a big moment since it's a level 12 campaign, and none of us can ever scribe them anyway. So I actually love that. I love the DM giving level 9 spell scrolls because it's a very cool feeling. Excuse me. But also knowing that your players are never necessarily going to get high enough level to actually like write them down in there. You never have to worry about that. You know what I mean? Because that is a worry. Like it's a weird thing having a wizard at your table. Scrolls hit different. Because you're always like,
Yeah.
you never want the player-to-player conflict of like, oh, can I have your scroll so that I can put it in my book and cast it all the time? And it's like, all right, but that scroll was for them. Like, what are you doing? You know, and it's so really tricky, but let's continue. Fast forward to last night. We were in this intense battle. Some of us were down, and we all decided it was finally time to use the scrolls. But then, plot twist. The DM reveals all the scrolls were mimics. Cue an even harder fight, and by the end of it, 2 characters died. The DM said he was, quote, punishing us, end quote, for hoarding the scrolls. One player thinks it's hilarious. 2 are really upset about losing their characters, and I'm ... kind of in the middle. I don't know how to feel about it. How would you guys feel in a situation like this? And then there's some edits here. Edit to clarify, even though we were like 50% in the campaign, the DM agreed that the players whose character died that they can start with new characters. And they had actually put a lot of thought into their original characters. They commissioned me to draw the characters for them. And just by drawing them, I can tell they put a lot of effort into it.
Yeah.
Here's another edit. And this is really important without me reading this next edit, as it stands, how do you feel about this? And then I'm going to read an edit, and it might change your opinion, so I'm going to save it.
Okay. So here's my one caveat to this whole situation. If the scrolls had always been mimics, let it fly. I'm not okay with the player deaths, but that's just my personal preference. I don't like to kill my players for the exact reason that this person is giving of they commissioned art for it. They're super attached to these characters. Yeah, I'm never going to kill it.
Yeah.
You know, or I'm never going to make it where if they are killed that they're irretrievable, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. I'm fine with like killing a PC, but it's also incredibly possible to resurrect that
now
PC.
We're off to the 9. Yeah. Now we're off to the 9 hells to get him back or whatever the hell.
And the player can play an NPC for the time being or something.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
I love that actually. Yeah. That's a fun idea. It's a cool side quest.
Yeah, exactly. and that makes
Shit,
the
maybe I'll
player
kill one of
deaths
you guys in our home
hurt.
game.
Kill Cal. That's fine.
go to the thing. The
Yeah.
Raven Queen's like, what the fuck, man? I just made
Yeah.
you champion.
Yeah.
What
yeah,
the
yeah,
hell,
yeah.
dude?
Well,
Fuck.
I thought I was. I guess I'm not as strong as I thought I was.
How was I supposed to know
What's
this girl
up?
was a mimic?
Right. Right. Yeah. So the other thing that I'm not cool with is the DM saying it's because they were hoarding scrolls that they're now mimics. That's not cool.
Exactly. So here's the edit. To answer the common question, because apparently that question was coming up a lot. Was this always planned? That kind of thing.
Right.
So they say, the OP says, to answer the common question, was it always planned as a mimic? No. And it was meant to be scrolls, and he was worried about us hoarding all of the... He was worrying... Excuse me. He was worried us hoarding all of these would ruin his future plans, so he wanted us to use some or maybe all.
Then don't give it to him.
We as a group decided to use all of them. 3 out of the 4 scrolls were mimics. The only thing that was not was power word kill, and the reason 2 of us even survived was because of that. But that's besides the point. Why didn't, and then they continue, why didn't the mimic show up until now? I have not a clue. His explanation was something along the lines of these mimics were smart. How does it make sense? It doesn't.
What?
And just seems like he is rationalizing and wasn't expecting some of us to be this mad.
Yeah. No way. Yeah. No. Either they're always mimics or they're never mimics. Either they've always been that thing and I've planned for it or whatever. If you're worried about them hoarding stuff, don't give it to them.
100%.
Easy as that.
Yeah.
Easy as that.
Yeah.
Don't give it
give
to
out
them.
magic items if you're worried about them.
If you're, yeah.
It's like a
if you're worried
gift.
about them.
I mean, this is like a really interesting question, actually, but like, how do you feel about like regifting? Because I'm of the belief of like, once I give the gift to you, it's yours.
Yeah.
I kind of am like, whatever.
Yeah.
Of course, if it's like a significant other, like certain family members, I might feel some type of way if I'm like, Mom, you sold my kindergarten artwork. I made that for you. Like maybe, but like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So it's like, once you give the players the magic item, it's on them.
That's theirs.
Yeah, sometimes
that's theirs to do. I mean,
they're not going to use it the way you
we
think.
have a whole goddamn spreadsheet of items that we have hoarded right now.
Yeah, it's insane. It's absolutely bonkers. But that's like, and like the upside of that is you have insane amount of items that are incredibly versatile, and you guys are smart enough to switch your attunement slots and figure it out. Downside, every once in a while you guys forget that you have an item that could have helped, and that's just that's how it goes. Yeah. So there's pros and cons.
Yeah. I mean,
it
really,
balances itself out in some ways because you guys have too many items.
Yeah. But don't punish the player for holding on to something that you gave them.
No, that makes sense.
It just doesn't make any sense.
It makes sense for them to hold on to them.
Yeah, exactly.
If this is such a powerful resource, think about if it was real life.
Exactly.
Like you would absolutely hold on to it until you needed it. It's crazy to do that. I'm actually okay with DMs changing some things, being like, oh, I was originally going to have it be this, but I'm going to change it and have it be this. That's fine on a surface level. In this context, it's fucked up because you gave them magic items and then you were like, actually, not only are they not these magic items, but they're deadly.
They're deadly magic items. And yes, I'm going to enforce that you are dead and that character is gone.
Yeah, I hate it.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Yeah.
There's some comments for this one. One person quoting the original passage said, the DM said he was punishing us. And then the comment says, ah, yes, so fun. Because that's exactly how I feel. It's like, oh, wow, so fun, DM. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for killing us for holding on to a thing that you gave us.
Yeah. Ridiculous. Another person said,
and like I said, it would be a wholly different story if they had been mimics the whole time and the players had the ability to discern that they were mimics.
Exactly. Like you're
That's
coming
a
up
whole
with
different
insane
conversation.
things about why the mimics never attacked. They were just chilling this whole time.
Yeah,
They didn't
no
attack
way.
until now.
No way.
Shut up. Like how were the players able to know that it was power word kill? They had to have opened the scroll and fucking read it. The mimic would have showed. Like get out of here, dude. Insane.
Yeah.
Like
so a true horror story, actually.
A true horror story.
This is actually a true horror story.
Yeah.
DMs don't do that.
Don't do this one.
Don't do that. Just if you take nothing away from this, don't do that.
Don't do this.
Don't just change it to punish your players.
So
there are sometimes valid reasons to punish your players. This is not one of them.
Yeah, and even punish is like a word that we kind of
Punish
use
is a very
jokingly.
strong word.
Yeah, we kind of use it in a joking sense
yeah,
of like, yeah, you're gonna get
Yeah.
back at those players. But like getting back at a player is like, this player's been using this one spell and fucking my life up. Here's a monster that has that spell. Ha ha ha.
Right.
That's funny.
Right.
You know, whatever.
Or here's silence or something along those lines. Do something mechanically to negate the thing that's making you angry. But you know, punish is a very strong word. Punish
It absolutely is. It's so stupid, especially like what they're being quote unquote punished for.
Right.
Another commenter puts it like this and says, the purpose of scrolls is to keep them until you need them. This DM is an asshole on a power trip, especially since he even admitted that he's punishing you. Punishing you for what? For being strategic? It's not like you have a wizard, it sounds like. The wizard part doesn't matter because they're not high enough level to use those spells, had they copied them in anyway. But because you can't cast 9th level spells until level 17. So that was never going to happen. Yeah. But he's absolutely right. The whole thing is using them strategically. Oh, you use them in a smart way? I hate it. What? Oh, you're smart?
I hate it.
Dumb.
I hate it.
What? Yeah, it's just so crazy to me. Like,
you're smart. That's dumb.
Another person even says, fuck it. That DM is an asshole. Leave that group because if he went into this power trip once, he'll do it again. It would be kind of funny if one of the scrolls was a mimic, but 3?
Right. Right. Exactly.
Because that would be funny if you gave them all these cool scrolls and then gave them one that was like a different thing. And you were like, one of them's a mimic. Like, that is funny. But you're not taking away anything, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You told them it was power would kill. It was true resurrection.
Don't kill your players with it. Don't kill your players with a joke.
Yeah. Especially mimics are weak as hell. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's the first one, man.
All right.
That one is actually pretty tame for the next couple. Well, yeah. This next one is actually a horror story. Like, this first one we can laugh about. This next one is crazy.
Okay.
And it's just an important thing to talk about, but also, this is truly a horror story. Okay. Just the title alone.
All
Ready?
right.
My quote unquote no-goes were not only laughed off, but taken advantage of.
Oh no.
Oh no is right. So I was playing in a campaign that only took place once a month online. I was having fun role-playing. Everybody seemed chill and genuinely fun to be around. No red flags, which is why, when out of the blue, after a session, the topic of no-goes and horror stories came up, I felt like it was not a big deal to throw mine out there. I would not, under any circumstance, like my character to have sexual encounters. Much to my surprise, pause on the story. Absolutely fair. I mean, we'll talk about it when I'm done reading the whole story, but yes, absolutely fair. Not every fucking player wants to get into this shit. Not to mention, I mean, fucking sexuality aside, but it also like, hey, there are some people who are ace. They don't like that shit. You know what I mean? There are some people who are like, I have a mutual friend who does D&D and like tabletop and stuff like that, who's Muslim and like doesn't also want their character to go through that shit either because of like more personal reasons. Like there's all kinds of situations about that could like give rationale. Not that you need that. This should be a full sentence, end, period, done. No questions asked. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Oof. Okay, moving on.
So off to a bad start. Let's go.
I'll read the last one. I would not, under any circumstance, like my character to have sexual encounters. Much to my surprise, people started laughing. Instead of well, that's not going to happen in this campaign anyway, I was expecting, I was bombarded with reasons why this was a dumb thing to say. People have sex, though. You can always fade to black. Why would that be a no-go for you? Are you asexual or something? Jesus, I didn't even read ahead to see that part. And no, I am not. This is just not what I am playing TTRPGs for. I would not even be extremely uncomfortable to role play up until the scene before fading to black. It's just not what I want to get out of the game. Anyway, while this did not feel great, I did not feel super discouraged at first. However, when the, all caps, very next session Had my character's childhood friend trying to go down on him, I did feel uncomfortable. I made sure everybody knew that, whatever the joke was, I was not getting or liking it and left the session. After how many people reacted to that, I left the campaign for good. And then they wrote, not a major horror story, I know, but it did leave a sour taste in my mouth.
No, it is a horror story.
Absolutely
That's
is.
awful.
It's one of the worst.
That's absolutely terrible.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
I'm at a loss for words on this one because it really, I am one of those people that genuinely do not like having sexual encounters with really any of my characters. Justin, we've played many, many years.
Yeah.
Not once have I gone for something like that because I don't like it. I'm not comfortable with it.
Yeah. Which is totally fair.
Is a totally valid point of view. You know, if you don't want it, then you have every right to say no. That's like, oh my gosh, that's just consent 101.
Yeah.
If they say no, don't do it.
This whole situation is insane for me. The entire table are assholes. The DM even more so because you kind of have an expectation of being a little bit of a ringleader and a leader by example sometimes. And so the DM not stepping in at any point really pisses me off. This whole situations like this, actually, like, there's a part of me that, gets like really upset and sad. And then there's a part of me that just gets furious because for some people,
I'm mad.
This is now their view of D&D.
Right.
That it feeds into the stereotype of those fucking neckbeard gatekeeping pieces of virgin shit. Fuck them, bro. Fuck them. So the idea that the entire table not only mocked their no-go, but also then proceeded to drill questions, inappropriate. Yeah. Why is that a no-go for you? It literally doesn't fucking matter why it is. It is.
Right.
It doesn't matter. Yeah. It doesn't matter if they had some traumatic experience, although that could be it. It doesn't matter if there was nothing and it's just like you were saying, I just don't have fun doing that. I don't want to do that in the game. Totally fair. There doesn't need to be a reason, right? It's done. I don't want to do this. Okay, don't do this. And then for them to not only mock it, but then to do it in the next session.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Is like,
oh my god. Oof.
Insane.
It makes me want to flip the table.
It makes me want to flip the fucking table. I wish I was fucking there, dude. I wish I was fucking there so I could have been the one goddamn voice of reason to be like, are you guys fucking kidding me? I thought I knew you guys. Like, you guys are all pieces of shit. I would end friendships over this.
Oh, yeah.
If not, at least have a very serious conversation after this where you call out, the very common thing
this
of
would
like
definitely
boys call out your
we
boys.
would be having
like that kind of shit. That's
we would be having
like.
a very, very stern conversation.
Yeah.
And depending on the conversation, the relationship would either be over or not. But
yeah, 100%. This is one of those defining moments where people reveal their true selves, and you have to take a hard stance in the fucking sand and say, "Is it worth me being friends with this person?
No.
If they're like this, like what the hell, man?" And then like, the whole thing pisses me off. The OP does put an edit in afterwards, like an update kind of, where they read through the comments and damn, apparently me saying this was not a major horror story was actually downplaying the situation quite a bit. Thanks guys. Feels good to know I'm not alone in this. And that makes me happy that at least they saw that every comment on this particular post was like, what?
Yeah.
Oof.
That's wild.
Yeah.
That is absolutely wild.
That one's just makes me furious.
This is why it's important to have your safety and consent stuff and also get a safe word for the table.
Yeah, safety tools
as well.
Some kind of safety tools.
Because something. And
and then
you're getting into a table that doesn't have that stuff. Yeah. If you're getting into a table that doesn't have that stuff, it is like Justin was saying at the top, that's kind of a red flag if it's not even discussed at all.
Yeah.
Seriously, it needs to be talked about. Hey, what do we, it doesn't have to be, okay, I'm okay with this. I'm not okay with this. I'm okay with this. Not okay with this. Just having something at the table would be like, hey, I'm not cool with this. Can we do something else?
Yeah. And then
it should always be valid at the table.
right, absolutely. There should be that approachability to be able to, feel comfortable enough to stand up and say, "Hey, can we skip this scene? I don't like this, whatever, blah, blah, blah. It gives me the ick. It freaks me out," or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's just a no-go.
Yeah.
And then the common
Respect the
decency
other people at the table
is for the other people to go, okay.
Right.
And that's it.
And then that's it. Right.
I just can't believe doing this. Whoa. There's oh my God. This is so crazy. This story sucks.
It's terrible because they were talking about it already. And then this person opened up to a vulnerable position of, hey, yeah, I'm actually not cool with this. And then they immediately burn them.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
It makes me so goddamn mad.
Oh boy. Well, luckily they left that group because it sounds like even after they were like, I made sure everyone knew that they were uncomfortable, whatever the joke was. I was not getting or liking it and left the session. After how people reacted to that, I left the campaign for good. So even after this happens, they make these sex jokes that you're not even also to make it your character's childhood friend on top of everything else. Not like
right.
You're splitting hairs at that point. You've already fucked up. But Jesus Christ. But then they voice their thing. They speak up. They say, "Hey guys, I not only do I not understand this joke, I fucking don't like it. It's making me uncomfortable." Says what they need to say, and then apparently the way that they reacted to that, which I can only imagine is them being like, "Oh, it's not a big deal. Get over it. You're being sensitive." Some bullshit. Yeah. Then the person left the campaign for good, and it's like,
as they should.
Wow,
have.
man.
As they should.
Yeah,
have.
I just hear so many horror stories when people play at gaming stores and stuff like that. It's why I've never even been interested in it. But that's just me, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I have so many friends that I can play with online and stuff, and so I'm just more about that. I just have no interest in meeting a bunch of strangers and playing in person. Why would I do that? Anyway,
let's move on to another story.
Now this one is crazy.
This one's crazy. Okay.
Yeah. This one is it's under the same subreddit of D&D horror stories, but it's written in the context of an "Am I the Asshole?" So here's the title. I want to get your take before hearing the story. Just hearing the title, I want to hear your take.
Sure. I
don't know if it'll change, but am I the asshole for not letting my D&D players run a horse brothel? Do you need me to say that again? A horse brothel.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't know. I have so many questions about this horse brothel of logistics generally. I don't. Maybe I don't know. I don't know. This is a very oddly.
Yeah, because right now your brain is going, "What is a horse brothel?
What is a horse brothel? What do they mean by
Are they the
horse
customers?
brothel? I mean,
are they the workers?
Right. Or both.
Or both?
I mean, or both.
Yeah, is this just a funny version of a horse breeding operation?
Right.
They're just like,
right.
I'm just in the racehorse business, and this is just a funny way that we do it. I don't know. Let's read the story. Let's see.
Yeah. Okay.
So this is from the Dungeon Master, obviously.
Sure.
I DM for a party of 9. So needless to say, things get a little hectic. So when my party's...
Wow.
I know, that's too big of a group. Don't do that.
That's a huge
So
group.
when my party's druid came up with an idea to get them some easy coin, I was caught a little off guard. My party just made it to one of the largest cities in my homebrew world, think Waterdeep. The druid asked me if, since there are a lot of people in the city, would the market for people who are interested in a brothel service be bigger? Naturally, I said yes, assuming he was planning on going to a brothel. He instead offered to work in the brothel for a day, assuring the owner maximum profit. With a high charisma roll, the owner agreed and gave the druid a room. The druid then revealed his hand. This whole time, he planned on using conjure animals in combination with wild shape to summon a militia of horses with the sole purpose of pleasuring the freaks of my city. This shook me to my core.
Wow.
After almost an hour of arguing with my players, who all jumped on the bandwagon against me, my druid told me he was, quote, putting his hoof down, end quote, and I was ruining his fun. He said that if I didn't let him, quote, get that bag, end quote, he would permanently leave the campaign. Still, I refused, and he stormed out of the room and later blocked my phone number, ending a 6-year friendship. Am I the asshole?
Wow.
Bro.
I mean, no. The short answer is no, you're not.
No, you're not.
If something's happening at the table that you're uncomfortable with and you won't allow it to happen, that's
DMs
100%
are allowed to have
A-okay.
boundaries also. Yes.
Yes.
1,000,000%
Yes.
You are not the asshole. If everybody at the table is not enthusiastically loving what is happening, then
Including yourself,
then you're allowed to say something and you're allowed to be like, no, we're not doing this. Now,
yeah.
it kind of comes down to like how the DM explained this. Obviously, we're missing a lot of like really specific stuff. That's what you're going to get with Reddit stories. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, yeah, right. Like we don't get like a play-by-play of the entire conversation. Like, did the DM say that they were feeling that they were like, no, this makes me feel uncomfortable, or like, did they try and come up with some weird rules reason why it wouldn't work, or like shut it down and just be like, oh, actually, there's no one in the town who's into bestiality. What? Because that's that's how I'm reading this.
Yeah. That is also
forces
how
with the sole purpose of pleasuring the freaks of my city.
Yeah. They're trying to get a bunch of horses fucked.
Yeah. No, thank you.
Yeah.
I would also shut this down.
Yeah. No,
I would just be like, no, it's gross. I don't want to fucking do that at my game. No. Because it opens up then it's like world building wise. It's like, this is your homebrew world. I understand feeling very like protective over it sometimes. And so there are some times when, you know, new players come in and they're like, what if it's like this? And you're like, oh, okay, maybe. And then like sometimes you can just be like, yeah, well, at this table we'll say, yes, the world is like that. But at this, you know, I've felt like that before, you know, like with Sphinx City or different homebrew worlds where I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, it's a good idea maybe. And I just kind of leave it at that because I'm like, I don't love it for like the main idea of the story, but okay, like maybe. So I think you're totally within your right to say no to this. I think I think your whole table needs a little bit of help. With some boundaries and consent, and also look at different sites. I don't know what you guys are doing. It's just weird.
Yeah.
Some comments. One person said, not the asshole. Not your job to fulfill his weird kinks he's trying to force into your game.
Yeah, absolutely. Is 100% what this boils down to.
Another person came and said, commented on that one and said, came to say the same. Personally, I'd be on board with a table running a horse brothel, and then only if the entire table is comfortable with it. That's a unanimous yes sort of thing. If it makes anybody even the least bit comfortable, then it's out the window without a question. OP is not the asshole. Player is the asshole.
Yeah, 100% agree.
100%.
You know, and it speaks to, you know, the diversity of it. Would I allow this in my game? As long as I don't have to like act it out or anything, but it's just kind of like a side hustle thing. You just kind of hand wave. It'd be kind of one story of like, okay, sure, you want passive income, whatever. As long as, again, it comes down to the whole table. If everybody at the table is okay with it, I'm not comfortable with it. But if it becomes a sticking point of all the players want to do this, all the players have some little thing that they're going to try to contribute to the process. Okay, fine. You can have that, but I'm never going to be acting it out. I'm never going to be role playing this. It's just going to be something that happens in the background.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think it would depend. It would depend on who I'm playing
really,
with and what the situation was. Like, if somebody were to...
Your friends need therapy.
Your friends need some help. But yeah, I think that like, I maybe would be a little bit more likely in a home game to do this, to allow this, because it's like whatever. If somebody tried to do this in an actual play where it's like on camera being recorded, I would immediately be like, get the fuck out of here. Absolutely not.
No, that's not happening.
No, not even a little bit.
Yeah. Look, the context of the game itself also is very key in that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I don't like that stuff anyway, so whatever.
Yeah. It was really, this is crazy. The title really got me on that one. I had to include it.
Yeah.
They got me with horse brothel.
Horse brothel.
Like, okay, you have my attention. You have my attention. I'm scared, but you have it.
I'm scared, but I'm reading.
And here we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely freaking bonkers. But okay, that one seems pretty settled. Here is the next one. Oh boy.
Oh boy.
Ay. Okay. Whew. The title of this one is "My DM Won't Let Me Wild Shape into Coral." Crying face emoji.
Okay.
First thoughts.
I think my first thoughts on it are, why do you want to be coral?
Right.
If it's to do something super game breaking, then no. If you just want to chill in an aquarium, all right.
Absolutely. Yeah, I do
depends.
think that it depends on like why you want to be coral, I guess, because there's like, I'm the type of DM, obviously the actual plays will prove it. I'm pretty like low key when it comes to rules, and like I'll allow a lot of random shit, especially in the name of flavor. So it's like, are you being coral and we're going to use the stats of something else and it's just kind of like whatever? Or is it because you want to be coral for like a hyper specific reason where you're like, well, technically this type of coral has a poison that and it's like, okay,
yeah,
calm down.
yeah.
So it really, there's a lot of context that's needed, but right off my first instinct right off the bat is like, just let them be coral.
Yeah, that is
coral
also
by
my
like
first
touching
instinct.
it like sometimes or something. Like, isn't coral like extremely fragile? Like I don't understand why you wouldn't let them be coral. It would make so much more sense if you were like, they won't let me be a whale shark, and you're like, well, they're huge. That kind of makes sense.
You're right.
Like, okay, you won't let me be a megalodon. You're like, well, that makes sense. Anyway, okay, let's get into it.
All right, let's get into it. Yeah.
We had a long debate about whether or not I could wild shape into coral, because coral is considered an animal, but he says it's barely a protist. Oh God. Despite this protist argument, he'd still let me cast plant growth and speak with plants on kelp, which actually is a protist and not a plant. Despite me not being allowed to become coral, he is willing to allow me to become a Portuguese man of war, which, as we all know, is actually a siphonophore, which means it's multiple organisms working together as one. He's also decided whether or not to let me turn into an anemone. That's all this person wrote.
Get out of here with your scientific nomenclature bullshit.
That's why I brought this one
table.
into the fold.
Yeah. No, it's if we're gonna get real pedantic about it, all right, it's not a beast. No, you can't do it.
Yeah, that's I have huge
game over.
Issue.
I let you get away with so much shit already, and now you're pushing it.
Yeah, I get into a huge issue when people try and like science past the rules and use real world physics or logic to kind of like talk about D&D and stuff. And it's like, sometimes you can use real world logic to help you explain certain things. And other times it takes away all of the magic. And I don't mean magic in like, I mean magic in like a Disney way. Like it takes away the magic, the imagination. It's like, come on, what are you talking about? Their magic exists, spells exist, all this crazy shit exists. Like, fucking chimeras exist. Dragons have 4 legs and 2 wings on their back. If we know anything about biology, that shouldn't really be a thing, because that kind of only exists in fucking insects where they have legs and wings, and the wings aren't an arm or something, like birds and bats.
Right.
So it's like, you could go into so much of this. Mind flayers exist. Hello? How are you going to explain that one? They just happen to have tentacles on their face? Why? Like, they literally have squid heads. But then we have squids on the earth.
Yeah.
What the fuck does that mean? Are mind flayers related to squids? Like,
yeah.
do they
actually,
see a
there's a
cuttlefish
really funny
and they're
bit
like,
in
Father?
Resident Alien. I don't know if you've seen that show.
I have not. I'm familiar.
Oh, it's very funny with Alan Tudyk, and they do have a bit where he goes into a restaurant and there's an octopus in a tank in the restaurant.
Yeah.
And the dog, he's like, dude, what are you doing? Like, they have a full on like telepathic conversation with an octopus. He's drunk out of his mind. It's so good.
That's so funny.
It's a great show.
They are little aliens. They're crazy. Okay, so the top comment on this.
Yeah.
Who gave the marine biologist a character sheet?
Yeah, exactly. 1,000%. 1,000%.
Then somebody commented on that one and said, my D&D group gave a character sheet to a marine biologist. Her character was a psychic potato bard by the name of Spud Russet, who wanted to make friends and sing for the queen.
Okay, they're allowed.
That person
they're
is
allowed to have a character sheet,
and
they can keep it.
And then there's another comment that I wanted to discuss because it kind of goes into what we've been saying. I think it's like painting a broad stroke and you're making some generalizations in this particular comment, that I'm about to read, but I think broadly speaking, I get what they're trying to say. When you've got a biologist playing a druid, a chemist playing an artificer, and a physicist playing a wizard, the DM is going to have a bad time.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, obviously that's a generalization. This one commenter proved that you can have a marine biologist as a D&D. Who gives a shit? Like, it doesn't mean that they're going to necessarily bring all the shit in. You know what I mean? Like, it's you're a locksmith. I have pre-med background and stuff. Doesn't mean that I'm constantly bringing in all this like real world shit, or like every time a lockpick comes up, it's like, well, technically that wouldn't work that way. It's like, okay.
You're right. No.
But, and sometimes that's nice to fall back on too, because sometimes you can be like, how would this work? Because magic exists. So sometimes things are happening in the game that literally can't happen in real life. So sometimes you're like, oh, how should I rule this? Maybe I'll use real world shit as a bouncing off board. Not as the end all be all, but just as a springboard.
Yeah.
Of like, how would it work in real life if you superheated a lock or super chilled a lock? Like, I've seen it in movies, but I don't really know. And then ask the locksmith at the table. They tell you and you go, okay, cool. Yeah, it's kind of like that, except because magic exists. It's a little more like, or I don't know.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the whole thing is we are not in, US or, on Earth in this game. And so to try to apply Earth solutions to a magical fantasy world is just not going to work sometimes. And
yeah, honestly,
you said that the DMs already let you turn into stuff like a jellyfish or a, anemone or whatever the hell. They're already giving you the most leeway on stuff that you could do. Like, you're already getting away with murder in some circumstances. And now you're just getting mad because they won't let you do that anymore.
I agree. But also, it seems like the DM is partially at fault in this particular scenario also. Because the first line, assuming that the poster is like being legit, right? And not like adding words or something or twisting it. Because they wrote, we had a long debate about whether or not I could wild shape into coral because coral is considered an animal, but he says it's barely a protist or barely not a protist or something, whatever.
Yeah.
And then all this different kind of stuff. So it's like,
I mean, the DM did engage it a little bit.
Yeah, because it's like, hey man, D&D doesn't make it doesn't matter. Is it in the animal kingdom? Would it be categorized as a beast? If yes, then fucking go for it. If for some reason you're making the argument, because if coral is alive, which we know it is, then it is, if going by D&D terms and only D&D terms, it can only be three things: a plant, a beast, or a monstrosity. We can write monstrosity off the list because that's fucking crazy, unless it's like a coral monster. It's not a plant because coral just literally is not a plant. Therefore, it's a beast. Therefore, you can wild shape into it. Done. I explained the whole thing. It's done.
All right.
Because you have to use D&D stuff to take real world knowledge and funnel it into a simpler, streamlined understanding of the world.
Right.
Is it a beast? Well, it can't be any of the other ones. So yeah, it's a beast. Also, it's coral. What are they going to do?
Right.
What are they going to do?
Right.
Like, I don't even understand. You're arguing, these two people, the player and the DM, are arguing for the dumbest reasons. Well, technically, a coral is part of the eukaryotic family, and therefore, no, it's a prokaryote, I believe. No nucleus on the outside. Oh, yes, very good. Cytoplasm and all. Just like, come on, man. What are we doing? Because I had discussions with our friend Megan in our home Sphinx City game, because her character is like a little bit of a tinkerer and an inventor, if you will. Okay. And she was throwing me real world stuff about how to make liquid nitrogen bullets so that they would do cold damage and all this crazy stuff. And I was like, bro, Magic exists. You don't need to send me articles about how liquid nitrogen works or like where you would find phosphorus to blind people or this or that. Like I like the flavor. Like you can describe that as how your character makes these things. I don't care.
Right.
But like at the end of the day, it's a Tinker's Tools check. It don't really matter what the design is. I don't care how plausible it is in the real world. The dice are going to tell us if you can make it or not, and I'll figure out the DC based on a couple of other factors. But like, yeah, it was really just like, well, this isn't Earth.
Yeah.
Again, sometimes I use like basic things on Earth maybe to help springboard ideas or inspire things where I truly lack the knowledge, you know, because she started talking about like phosphorus and how to get it and stuff, and I had to like open up incognito window and be like, how do you get phosphorus? I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like 10 pages deep, I'm on the FBI's list. Excuse me. But anyway,
I'm on a list somewhere because this
just sucks.
it just sucks, you know.
Ay. Okay.
Yeah.
This.
All right, I think we got time for one more.
One more. Let's bang this one out. Although this one is bonkers. Fucking bonkers.
They've all been pretty crazy.
Yeah. So the title of this one is misleading because it's actually it's like a quote from the DM. This is written from the perspective of one of the players.
Okay.
But the title of this is a quote from the DM. So when it says I, it's like from the DM's perspective because I was taken aback. But anyway, okay. I'm creating a world with genderless amoeba people, but I don't want to deal with any of that pronoun garbage.
What?
I hate people. Oh, God. About 7... I'm just going to get into it. You need the context.
Okay. Yeah, all right. Yep. Yeah.
About 7 years ago, I discovered Roll20. After my IRL group couldn't meet up anymore, I joined 2 games. One was super cool, and I made friends I still play with today. But the other one, I never ended up playing a game with. Before the DM would offer anyone a space, he insisted on interviewing prospective players over Discord. The interview was about half an hour long and was pretty average stuff. How's your setup/internet? Can you make the time each week? Etc. He also shared a lot of plot and homebrew setting and races he'd found. It was this very futuristic space D&D game. You could play one of only 4 races: an androgynous species of space ant, warp-addled humans, some alien elf analog, and a species of genderless amoebas. I thought the last one sounded pretty cool. I felt drawn to it, so was considering playing one of those. The call ends. He's been coming across as pretty fine. Then, a few minutes later, I get this essay of a private message from him. He talks about how he likes to meet people first to give them a chance to like him because he also wanted to let me know that, quote, while I'm not transphobic, I just don't want to deal with any pronouns or anything. I just believe that your gender is what you're born with and what's in your pants. And don't want to deal with any, like, liberals trying to confuse me while I'm running a very high concept professional game. By the way, in parentheses, this is transphobia, which it is.
Right.
He insisted...
Right.
He insisted that every player only play characters with a binary gender that matches the player's sex. I asked about how that would work with 2 of the 4 races not having a gender binary or any concept of gender as a whole.
Yeah.
After a while, he responded that was only lore from whomever produced the handout, and functionally, they were all going to adhere to his ideals. Fun fact about me, I am trans, though at the time of this game I hadn't figured that out yet. But I did have several trans friends and would not play with somebody who, 1, was trying to control something as inconsequential as that, 2, was clearly not someone who would listen to other viewpoints or consider other courses of action. The red flags are there, so I rejected his offer of a space. Sometimes I still think about how that game did go and the poor people who ended up playing with him.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an apt description of poor people who have to play with them now. Like,
Yep. Yeah, this one's
wow.
crazy.
What I can't even. This one's wild. All right, so this fucking DM has the audacity to run what he calls a quote unquote high concept game.
Yeah,
but cannot navigate the absolute minefield of pronouns.
This, or like a gender spectrum in any way.
Or any at all. And then also has 2 non-binary races in the fucking game, but he can't wrap his head around that it is not always A or B.
Yeah. Insane. The whole thing is fucking crazy. Thank goodness this person saw the writing on the wall, got the fuck out of there.
Yeah, good job. Way to get out of a fucking nightmare situation.
Yeah. It's crazy because
again, that was session 0 technically, the interview.
Pretty much, yeah, like a pre-session 0 kind of thing. Because session 0s, I don't know if they should be 1-on-1, but
no,
that's a personal take, but like, yeah, thank God you found this out quickly. And also, right? There's a part of me when it comes to like Republicans and like conservatives who have these like very hateful ideas and like transphobia, homophobia, misogyny, like what racism, whatever it is, right? The line that really got me here was he talks about how he likes to meet people first to give them a chance to like him, because he also wanted to let me know that, quote, while I'm not transphobic, ... Like this idea of I want to get them to like me first, then I can upload my hateful ideology.
Right.
Because I'm sure we've all had that scenario, especially like you and I are both like white, either male or male presenting in some ways, like masculine presenting. We all have that situation where like somebody looks at us and goes, oh, they're going to also hate this group of people. I will talk to them about it. And then they talk to us about it and they're like, what? You don't also hate this group? And you're like, fuck you, man.
Yeah. You're actually a piece of shit. Man. Like, I don't like you.
Yeah. Or like conversely, like, I mean, there are people in my family or even like people that I've known personally who like, on one hand, the nicest person ever. And then also, then they open their mouth and they say some of the most hateful, disgusting shit. And you just have to be like, well, that's the real them. They're only being nice to me because I'm not that group of people or something.
Exactly. Right.
And it's like, whoa, what a clusterfuck of emotions.
Yeah.
So it's just like this whole thing is so crazy, so problematic. It really is. The red flags were there from the beginning, luckily. You didn't have to get too invested in the time and then eventually break out of the group or whatever. One thing was interesting. So there's some comments here, and one of them from the OP, the original poster. The first comment from somebody else that says, I find it weird to not want people to play a gendered character that's different than their own. I love changing that up and trying to be somebody else for my role play. I didn't think it was that weird to play a woman as a man for me. So this commenter is a man and they've played a woman before for me. And I'm sure there are plenty of women that play male characters too. And then the OP comments on that and says, right, I've been now DMing for a particular group of people for 4 years and all of them regularly play different gendered characters. If a human can role play as a kobold, why can't a guy role play as a girl or an non-binary person?
Right.
And I like 90% agree with this. I think there's like very specific stuff that I'm like, I think you could get into issues with because it deals with like there needs to be like a level of respect. It's like, how are you playing that character?
Yeah,
or like,
right. It's definitely all in how that person is expressing that character. If it's being a very stereotypical or demeaning depiction of that gender or race or whatever you put out there, if it's degrading to what you're doing, like to the people that you're trying to emulate, that's wrong.
Exactly. If you're like, well, I'm playing a woman, so insert stereotype here. It's like, oh, problematic piece of shit. Should never have played a woman. Why are you? If you're playing a woman for the joke, like, fuck you.
Right.
If you're doing it for a different reason, then like we can talk about it and stuff like that. Like, there's different ways to go about things. My knee-jerk reaction also is that I'm almost immediately going to be way more comfortable with women playing as men than the reverse.
Yeah.
And that I think just comes from like my personal experience with like, hey, when I first came out of the closet, I told women first. It just is how it goes. You know what I mean? Chances are the women are going to be more accepting. They're going to be more like open-minded. Like there's just a difference there.
Yeah.
The other thing is this entire like post and everything is all dealing with gender, and the one person saying like, oh, if a human can play a kobold, why can't you play blah blah blah.
Right.
I think the reason I'm like, oh, 90%, and I'm not willing to just give this 100% affirmation is because I think, unfortunately, you have some people who, instead of playing a different gender, they're playing a different race. And I don't mean race like a kobold.
Yeah.
I mean race like I'm going to be a
yeah.
black person. And I think that is crazy. I think that can open up a lot of weird things. It's not even our place to not even have to like quote unquote like make a ruling on that or something like that. This is just how I feel about it, is like, I kind of am like, why are you doing that though?
Right.
Because
it's always the it's the why. It's
Yeah.
the why are you doing it? Why are you doing it?
Yeah, because like
comes from a place of learning or something like that, where you kind of want to learn from the experience of that, then okay. We can go with
I
that.
respect that. However, if a player said that to me, I would still be like, I respect why you want to do this as a white person, okay?
Right.
However, I'm white. I can't be the one to teach you this or to put the guardrail, the guardrails on this to make sure it's all being done respectfully. Here are some fellow D&D creators and TTRPG creators who are black or people of color, and watch some of their content and stuff like that. They're going to tell you straight up, hey, don't fucking do that, or do it, or here's how to do it and stuff like that. Yeah. Listen to their voices. Don't listen to mine. I don't feel comfortable with you experimenting and learning that and trying that shit at my table personally. You know what I mean?
That's fair.
Because that's just I don't fucking know. Like, I can put in work and do time and all this kind of stuff. And like, recently I've been seeing a lot of discussion on Marisha Ray's character in the second season of Critical Role, where she plays a very dark-skinned character. She plays a dark-skinned character. She never outright says this is a black character, she's a black woman, or even mentions that she's a person of color. But the artwork would suggest that she kind of has that presentation.
Right.
It's a very interesting conversation that I fully am just keeping out of, because it doesn't affect me in that way.
Right.
And so I'm just listening. And it's interesting to hear the discussion, because there are different creators who are people of color or black who feel differently about it. Some people are very against it. Like fuck Critical Role for doing this. And other people are like, oh, it's not that crazy. And other people are like, actually, she's never said that she's black, so you have no proof that she's black, and therefore da-da-da-da. So it's like, people are all over the spectrum, even in that community. So like, it's tricky, because then you could look at other parts too, of like people who want to play like characters with disabilities and stuff like that. Like, because it comes from the same part of like, why are you doing that? What's your motivation? And do we at the table have the resources and the time and energy and stuff like that to make sure that these things are happening respectfully and like with thought and care and love, and you know what I mean, and respect and dignity and stuff. And it's just like, it's always just a question of like, do you need to do that though? Like, could you could you have just as much fun playing a character who isn't those things? If your thing is I just want to play a black character just to play a black character, and it's like, okay, that's really not good. If you want to learn, then it's like, I get it, but also like other people, like putting yourself into a D&D character isn't going to be the like empathy exercise that some people think it will be or something, right? Because then what does that mean? Do I, as the DM, have to like put you through colonialism or something?
Right.
Because then there's even questions of that, of like, there are tables where white DMs and white actual plays and stuff like that explore those topics: racism, colonialism, imperialism, this and that, and all those crazy things. Bro, you have to handle those things with fucking kid gloves isn't the right word, but you need it like those kind of gloves that Homer Simpson like picks up nuclear stuff with. Like, you gotta be so careful about how you do that. And chances are you might unintentionally do some crazy shit, Like, don't get me wrong, there's a part of me that would be interested in learning a little bit more about that kind of stuff and having an opportunity to learn and stuff. I don't think I would do it with like majority white people, because what is the point?
Right. Yeah, that's definitely
Defeats
a
the whole
table
fucking
specific type of
purpose.
thing. Right.
Imagine going to like a friend or something who's black and being like, dude, crazy session this weekend. I learned a lot about like the plight of black people. And they're like, oh, interesting. Who'd you play with? And you're like, so many white people. What?
All the way. What?
I learned all about marine biology from a chemist.
Mm-hmm.
What? Yeah. No, he's really into herbs. Oh, a Joe Rogan ad. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? I don't know, man. So anyway, these are our 5 posts for this episode of the D&D Horror Stories. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please let us know if you did enjoy it and you want to further, like, if you want more content like this, let us know. I'd also be interested. We could always do a live episode, something like this too, as an idea. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, we have to figure out scheduling with how the live plays are going to work and the pre-recording and other ideas like video games and game shows, all this other shit that we have planned. But the most important thing is that when you're looking for grapefruit flavored beverages, Fresca is all you need.
Yeah. All right. That's all we can get into this time. You can find us on TikTok and Instagram at So You Want to Be a DM, or you can ask us a question at soyouwannabeadm@gmail.com. If you like the episode, don't forget to give us 5 stars and review wherever you found us, and check out our Patreon and Twitch with the link in the description. Join us next time for more Dungeon Master tips and tricks.
Bye.
See you.
And now I have the honor of giving a shout out to the members of our Patreon gang. Nub Muffins, may Paylor's light shine upon you. And then there's Lee, Talkscreen, Tappy, and Molly. We appreciate each and every one of you. Tune in next time for more tips and tricks from So You Wanna Be a DM.